It was very difficult to be separated from my children. I was able to eat over there, but I didn't know if my kids were eating over here. It was a painful experience, the separation from my children. It was a painful experience because I was working and making money, but I knew all the time that my kids were here by themselves.
In 2008, roughly 1 in every 35 persons in the world was a migrant. The annual growth rate in international migrants is higher now than in any other time in history. Like all of us, their lives are not only affected by the actions of the people they meet, but are profoundly affected by the policies made by governments. Public policies result in both intended and unintended consequences, and while policymakers are often buffered from the consequences of their decisions, the people we talk to in Mexico live with the consequences every day. For example, as a result of the North American Free Trade Agreement, Mexico has been open to U.S. government-subsidized corn exports. Mexican corn producers cannot compete on price even in their own country. Mexicans now buy corn produced in the U.S., and many Mexican corn farmers have been put out of business. Mexican labor leader Alfredo Dominguez says the Mexican government is partly to blame because its policies further impoverish Mexico.
The Mexican government has chosen instead to import our food products. We're buying our food products from the United States instead of producing them here in Mexico. And what is really incredible is that we import gasoline from the United States. We export our crude, and we're actually buying our gas from the United States. It is one of those terrible contradictions that we face.
Similarly, without the free flow of labor, Mexico and other less developed countries have little leverage to bargain over labor costs. Corporations move wherever the labor is cheapest, and workers move to wherever jobs are available.
While in this country we have currently 107 million people, we should have 140 million people living here, but they left the country. The rest of those people, 33 million, have left the country to go to the United States, Canada, Spain, anywhere else because they, especially the rural population, cannot get work.
The
economic situation here, as I previously commented, is very difficult, so I had to go. At the border, I spent nights without sleeping for fear of being deported. We had to be careful with patrols on both sides of the border. On the Mexican side, there was a border patrol that was corrupt in their mistreatment of the Mexicans that were trying to cross over. They took the opportunity to collect money. Some women who were trying to cross over were raped by the coyotes that traffic people. It's a risk because you're going there as an illegal. For 1 month, I had to deal with them and work with them whether I was going to cross or not. We crossed over a hill in the evening. At that moment, it was tense. Nights without sleeping are a terrible experience. You go with that tension.
The knot of women, heat shriveled, hunch over their machines, piecework puppets, manipulating bits of fabric, the whir and hum of technology, stinging the air like a giant wasp. The needle trade marches on, populated by its human machines, immigrant women, shapeless, in sleeveless smocks, are mechanical tools, overexposed film, hemming, pressing, basting, threading, cutting, stitching. Piecework is the name of the game. Pieces of soul, pieces of bone, pieces of sinew, pieces of gut, pieces of pride, pieces of pain, pieces of people, pieces of profit, piecework. After I was blacklisted for being a union organizer, I couldn't find work. For 1 year I was without work. I had to pay the rent on my house, and my kids were still in high school, so I had to immigrate to the United States. I had no place to work and no way to buy food. From here I left with a girlfriend. Crossing the border in Tijuana, we were caught 3 times. We were put in jail. When I was successfully able to cross, they took me from Buena Vista to San Diego. In going from San Diego to Los Angeles, I was put in the trunk of a car with 4 other people to Los Angeles. When I got to Los Angeles, I was covered with bruises because the guys were pushing each other, searching for air. They would push me against the wall of the trunk. In Los Angeles, I worked as a seamstress. I worked in 6 or 7 factories. We moved around a lot so that we wouldn't be spotted by immigration officials. Even the bosses of the factories where we worked told us to change jobs because we would be deported if we were caught. And I had some rough times there because I was over there and my kids were over here. As soon as I was able to save a little money, I bought 3 sewing machines. And then I came back to work here in Cuernavaca to help the family. As you can see, this small factory is here to help single mothers who have young children. They take their children to a nursery and they come and work a while and then go pick them up. Or the mothers that have children in school, they take the kids to school and come here for 2 or 3 hours. I hire both men and women, but I prefer to hire women as this is a way to help them out, the ones with babies, so that the children don't suffer in their mother's absence. In other companies, they work the regular shifts, 7 a.m. to 4 or 5, sometimes to 8 or 9 at night, and the child is separated from the mother for too long. This is a family factory, and the women work 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon to accommodate their needs and the needs of the factory.
Can you talk about the decision-making process of going to the U.S. and what that meant for your children?
Well, I had to take care of my children, and I couldn't find jobs in the different factories around here because they would say I was blacklisted for defending my rights. Here we are called grilleros, those of us who upset the status quo. I was working and sewing over there as well, and I was paid by the piece. Sometimes I made $25, $30, even $50 or $70 a day, depending on how much I produced. I started at 7 in the morning and left work at 9 o'clock at night. When I was only doing labels and collars, I could make $50 or $70 per day.
So her life outside of work, how was that?
I went in early and got out very late, and I even worked Saturdays and Sundays sometimes. I would get home in the evening, I would clean the room where I was living, and I would prepare food for the next day. I took a shower, went to bed, and got up early when it was still dark to leave for work. Then on Sundays we would go to the supermarket and buy the stuff we needed for the rest of the week.